She walked in halfway through my 4th grade year, and she walked right into here. Her name was Joey. I know a lot of you, when you hear the name Joey, you think of a guy. I don't. I have 4 memories of her, very distinct. Even though I stared at her a lot, I only have these 4 remaining memories. One is of her perfect profile. She sat 3 desks right to mine, and instead of listening to the teacher, I would just stare at her. And I remember this one time she had this My Little Pony brush, and she was just brushing her shoulder-length auburn hair, and with just this perfect profile of like the long forehead and the big brown eyes and the lips slightly protruding out. And I just stared at that profile and watched. Memory number 2 was we were on the swings, like next to each other, and going back and forth, and then destiny brought us together, and we were swinging together. And we're swinging together, and the red-haired kid, Ricky, shouted from across the playground, "Rocky and Joey are married!" And I'm like, yes, we are. Yes, we are. Memory number 3 was we're in the library at library reading time, and we're sitting as close as we can to the librarian as she's reading as only a librarian can, like at this weird angle, but reading it perfectly, and we don't know how librarians can do this. They should get paid so much for being able to do that. And we're all crowded as close as we can, all except for Joey, and Joey was sitting back away, and she was wearing this dress, and she had sat in the middle of the dress, and she'd pulled her dress all the way around. It created this circle, this barrier around her, like she was like the princess and the castle and the moat, like all in one, and just separated out. And then she stayed with us only for a year, and then her dad got a new job across town, and she moved across town, and I kept on trying to get the courage to tell her how I felt about her, but never could. And then she left. She was gone, and we went through the rest of that year together, her there, me over here, and then we went to separate middle schools, and we were going to separate middle schools. And at the end of my first year in middle school, we got the call, and it was at the very end, right before the summer, we got this call and said that her middle school had burnt down to the ground over the weekend. And I just remember thinking, why didn't I think of this earlier? Like, this is a great idea. Why? And it burned to the ground, and they were going to rebuild it over the summer. They would rebuild it, and they would make it an 8th grade only school, and they were going to bring everybody, and this was going to be a 6th and 7th grade school. And all I could think of was, Joey's coming back, and I'm going to tell her. And they said the last week of school, they're going to bus them all in for this big orientation. And I was chosen as one of the leaders for the orientation, and I got my little group, and I was bringing them around to all the places, showing the lockers there, lunchrooms there, all this thing. But the whole time I'm thinking, where's Joey Howard? Where's Joey Howard? Where's Joey Howard? And finally my duty was done, but it was the end of the day, and I'm walking as fast as I can, and I'm walking, and I'm asking if people had seen Joey, and they're like, you just missed her, she's right over there. And now I'm running. I am running down the halls looking for Joey, and then I open up the door, and I open up the door because someone said she was outside. I open up the door to the front of the junior high there, and this is the 4th and final memory I have of Joey Howard as she steps onto the bus, and the door closes, and she drives away. And because that summer my dad got a job in a city 3 hours down south on I-5, and I never saw her again. This is before the internet. This is before Facebook. This is before all those. This is before mobile phones even, and all that. And I knew I would never see her again. And as we're driving that distance, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, the only thing worse than rejection is the regret that I'll never be able to tell her how I felt about her. So I made the decision from that moment on that whenever I liked somebody, I was going to tell them. I have been rejected more times than is humanly possible, but I will tell you now that I am happily married because the girl that I met, and finally I said, random thought. This was like our 5th time hanging out. Random thought, I like you. That was my pickup line, and she happened to like me too, and so no looking back. Here's to Joey Howard. Thank you very much.
Keep it going for Rocky.